Welcome to The Pod, a podcast for women in healthcare leadership, a heartfelt space where women executives in healthcare and their allies unite to support and uplift each other with personal stories that inspire positive change, nurture optimistic mindsets, and celebrate diverse perspectives. I'm your host, Dr. Kristen Woods. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." These words remind us that true leadership begins from within, with the voice we listen to the most, our own. Today's guest, Michelle Backus, has spent her career helping leaders master what she calls the inside game, the internal dialogue and values that shape everything we do. Michelle is the founder of The Savvy You, an organization dedicated to teaching transforming truths that empower people to live the lives of purpose, peace, and victory. As an award-winning senior certified consultant at the Trust Edge Leadership Institute, she specializes in leadership development and training, bringing her expertise to organizations nationwide, including the USAA, Bayer, the National Guard, and numerous healthcare and financial institutions. What I find especially remarkable is Michelle's 27-year commitment as a WNBA chaplain for the Minnesota Lynx, a testament to her dedication to empowering women in leadership over the long haul. Known for her high-energy keynote presentations, Michelle delivers practical strategies that help leaders build high-trust cultures. Her audiences consistently praise her for inspiring them to be their best selves, and today, she's here to help us do the same. Michelle, welcome to the pod.
Wow, what a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I am so excited to spend some time with you. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here. You do bring a lot of energy, and I'm excited to share that with our audience today. Michelle, Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." You shared with me a more empowering version of that quote. Can you share how you've modified it and why that shift in language matters for leaders?
Absolutely. Actually, that quote comes from a book called This Is My Story by Eleanor Roosevelt in 1940. And she was dismissed, kind of scrutinized. It was the Great Depression, World Wars, right? And kind of put off to the side. And yet she was a leader and had a strong voice in our world. And I just even understanding that background brings more power to it. But it was my mother that really introduced me to that quote first. Shout out to Jackie Peterson. And she said, "Hey, Shell," and I was going through a hard time and something in high school. She said, "Hey, this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, 'No one can make you feel inferior without your consent,' is applicable to any emotion. You can put any word in that place for inferior. No one can make you feel angry without your consent. No one can make you feel embarrassed without your consent." And that was, in some of my formative years, a very empowering lesson by my mom, who has been through broke a lot of her own glass ceilings in many different ways. And I got to see her live that out. And it's true. We on the podcast right now, and people can leave with that. It's so empowering. So I used it in the classroom. I taught high school right after college. And it's for example, let's say it's homecoming Friday. Kids are squirrels. They have striped bibs on, and they're not thinking about this great psychology or US history lesson that I had. And so it was a tool in my own leadership toolbox to not let them, give teenagers permission to get me off of my game. I recognize it. I refuse to let them get me frustrated and prepared accordingly. And that has just been something that's helped me become the leader I am. And I encourage you to use that as much as you want. Yeah.
That is a powerful tool. And I believe that perspective is at the heart of your new course that's launching this January 2026, called The Inside Game. Tell us, what is the inside game and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm really excited about this. This is everything that I have learned in my young years of tomorrow's my birthday, right? So I'm mid 50s right now, and I'm just putting it all in there. It's not to be held, but to share. It's a transformational leadership course that is based on the idea that before you build your culture, before you build your team, before you build your impact, you need to build yourself from the inside out. I've worked with leaders, professional athletes. I've worked with leaders all over the world actually, and have found that yeah, they might be winning in the papers or on the paper, but they're empty, they're exhausted, they're not aligned. And I'm as a senior consultant, you mentioned that for the Trust Edge Leadership Institute, and I'm a huge fan of David Horsehager himself and his work. I know we both will talk about that later probably, but I've infused that material into this course as well. And there's like created proverbial or metaphorical rooms, if you will, in your mind that we live in. And like, for example, the entry room, we look at clarity, right? We look at the weight room, we talk about consistency. And sometimes these rooms, for a leader to be effective, we ignore them. We don't even pay attention to the closet, right? I don't, right? So it's a very comprehensive course, and it's a lot of fun too. Got a creative approach, but more than anything, it just helps leaders recalibrate who they are, how they lead, and why do what they do. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I think you touched on this, but what transformation do you want participants, those leaders, to experience? And why does that matter today more than ever?
Yeah, great question. There's so much misalignment from how people present themselves or what they aspire to be and how they show up. There's a gap there. There's gaps in my life and I'm still working on, right? Just because I teach on this and read and lead on this doesn't mean I have it all perfect either. And so learning from my errors and seeing other people do it well, that's one of the motivations, is to help people get alignment in their personal values and how they show up. I have also worked with a lot of men and women who lack confidence. And that's aching to me, to see someone shrivel up in a situation. And sure, we get nervous and those kind of things. So I want them to leave with unshakable confidence after taking this course, having clarity of purpose, know their values. It's kind of all encompassing. I'm really excited for it.
Are you willing to give us a little glimpse in and perhaps share one powerful tool from the inside game that every leader listening today could start using immediately to strengthen their leadership from the inside out?
Sure. One of the rooms is the kitchen. That's where we create things, right? And we have the power to create our own thoughts. There's a lot of research, and I talked to someone who's at a brain lab out east, and I said, is it 100% that thoughts come before emotions? And he said, Michelle, I can't tell you exactly 100%, but it is really close, that those thoughts precede emotions. And so many people lead by feelings. If we could understand and take a step back and rework and create in our kitchen our thoughts. We know, if maybe you've heard, the thoughts become words, words become action, action becomes habit, habit becomes character, character becomes reputation. It all starts here. Here's a tool that you can all use. And the body, research shows that the body doesn't understand the difference between fear and excitement. And so if you're feeling anxious or nervous or insecure, you're going to take that last free throw shot in the WNBA finals, or you have a big presentation before your board, a hospital board, or say these two words. And I often have a box when I'm presenting, and it's really a beautiful box and it has a bow on it, and I give it to someone and I open it up, and in it is just these two words, because these words are gifts. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm excited. Simple, straight, word shift, I'm excited. Those are two really good ingredients for your inside game in your kitchen room. Yeah, they shift things in me, and I've seen it be very effective in others as well. So that's one tool that I like to use.
I love that. I love the metaphor that you use about getting in the kitchen and putting your ingredients in. I've talked to people I've coached, to my daughters, my son, about being up in their feelings a bit. Are you up in your feelings? And then how can you reframe that energy? So, my daughter, who has some anxiety around test taking, we talked about reframing that nervousness, as you said, into excitement. Channel it into excitement about taking this test. And it's amazing what that shift in thoughts can lead you to. So I love that tool.
Absolutely. Along those same lines, I have something called the thought taste test. Just a little, more creative. But when you grab that thought, even ancient wisdom says, yeah, in the Bible, take every thought captive, right? That's what we are to do. So with my inside game course, there's a thought taste test. And some of that is grab that thought and ask yourself, is it true? And then ask yourself, is it always true? Right?
Powerful.
Is this thought good for my mental health? Is this thought good for the mental health of others around? So there's a series of questioning around that, just like you would take a spoon in something you're going to sample. So those are some tools in the inside game that really matter. Before we can lead others, we need to make sure we are leading ourselves to our best of our ability.
Powerful. Trust is the foundation of everything we do in healthcare leadership, in all leadership, really. And you and I met through the Trust Edge Leadership Institute, where we are both certified partners. Now, you've been facilitating workshops on trust for a number of years. What's your favorite part of facilitating this work, and what have you learned from the leaders that you serve?
Oh, great question. A couple of my favorite parts are this. First of all, the thank you notes when I see it clicks. And it's been beautiful. I worked with an organization on a consulting 3-year contract. I worked with the executive office, the front desk people, all the way to crew members that are implementing this work. And one time it was predominantly men. My colleague and I were down there and just sharing from our heart, and these men were loving it. And just the juxtapose of where I was the day before with suits and ties, and then this group was fun to see that. And I got this. I actually printed out because it's just one of my favorite thank yous. I got an email that night. The next morning at 5:30 in the morning, because we finished that night. And the title subject line said trust. And it said, thank you again for providing such a wonderful training. The wife and I discussed several of these topics of the training for over an hour last night. It just goes on. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that I love about it is it works professionally and personally. And this trust work that you and I are both in is life-changing. And so I love seeing it when just getting over a cold, seeing when the light switched, and he even took the next step and thanked me and took it into his personal life. And the other part that I think I really enjoy is if I can, when I clearly communicate this 8-pillar framework and the depth of this work, that it's not just a soft skill. Is one of my favorite parts is when the room gets quiet. Trust is a very powerful topic. We have all experienced it broken. And so it even already has a layer, broken marriages, broken commitments in other areas, job loss, all these things. And so people, I think, don't realize, me included, how guarded we are around that. And so I enjoy, to your point about facilitating, I enjoy teasing that out, making them comfortable where they remove the layers and we are all having a conversation and then it gets quiet. It's a powerful thing. That's pretty fun. In fact, one of my most powerful intense trainings was with MAPS, Minnesota Alliance for Patient Safety. Like, does every state have that organization? I'm not sure in the healthcare area, but I was greeted at the door with these beautiful 5 foot by 3 foot wide stand, posters that say, I didn't realize I was going to be blind when I woke up. All these things. And so that have happened in healthcare. And this is a beautiful organization where the surgeons are in the room and the head of big medical hospitals in Minnesota, and we have a lot of them, and the patient that lost their daughter or son, and how they come together with the heart intent of learning from each other and building trust. Because healthcare it's all about trust.
It is. It is all about trust.
Yeah.
And I love when you talk about those quiet moments, that's when people are thinking, right? That's when you know something has hit home and you've really have people's attention and their brains just clicking away. One of my favorite pillars to teach in the Trust Edge framework is the pillar on character. And I bring that into one-on-one coaching with leaders because we always start by defining our values and creating a personal brand that's meant to be our internal compass, guiding our decisions and our behaviors. I know you're extremely value-driven, Michelle. What inspires you about teaching leaders to clarify and live by their values?
That's a great question. I too love the trust pillar of character. People trust those who do what is right over what is easy. And when we do these work, depending on who I'm talking with, we often have a pillar hero. What examples of people do you see that are compassionate organizations, and I ask for that of character. Crickets, quiet room for the wrong reasons. Like, oh no. This is a very intimate, and values are directly aligned to that. And so we talk about values as values you make decisions by, not things you value, but values you make decisions by. And so I encourage everyone, this is a part of the inside game as well, getting clarity in the entry room, getting clarity around our values and how we present, how we have to do inside work before any of that happens. One of the things that, you can't talk about character without talking about integrity. And that is a value I would hope every leader had. And one of the tools I use in there is a pillow test. I actually have a satin pillowcase that says "Pursue Your Savvy You" on it. And I teach in the course, before you go to bed at night, make it a routine. And it kind of goes through this nightly routine that I teach. But at the end of the day, can you lay your head on the pillow and knowing that you have internal peace because you did what you said you were going to do, and you aligned your values with it? Did I take the $20 bill from the bank? That should bug you, right? I mean, that's just a very flippant example. But can we pass the pillow test? So I think that alignment between your values and who you say you are, and if you have gaps in there, that's unsettling. I think anxiety can sneak in there, because of that. I think anxiety is don't get me going on the whole anxiety thing. It's about another time. But it affects your mental health. If you're living one way and your behavior doesn't respond to what you say or how you want to present.
Exactly. And I can see where that leaves a gap for anxiety to creep in, or depression, or you name it. And if we go back to the power of words and how the language we use shape our reality, how do you connect the words we speak, especially to ourselves, to the values that we hold?
That's really good question. I think, especially at the inside game, when you define your values, that's not just aspirational. I want to do this. They're actually directional. You even made mention of that. They are your compass. And I have values for my company, the Savvy You, right? So one of them, I have my whole thing right here too, like creativity and excellence in delivery. That's part of the reason why I'm going for it and doing the inside game with metaphorical rooms. It's fun, first of all, and that's part of who I am. And those, because of that, and that is a value of mine, not to be a cookie cutter course. This will be like something that you have never taken before. That value drove my decision to create it in this way. And so they are part of your personal brand, and they are directional, not just aspirational. When you talk about words driving behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Switching direction just a little, I'm super curious to know what's one powerful lesson that perhaps surprised you to learn over those 27 years that you've been chaplain with the Lynx? What have these women taught you?
Well, that's a great question. People are people. It doesn't matter if they have a 42-inch vertical and or a physician that graduated top of their class. People are people, and people fuel each other through connection. And so we're in a noisy world right now. There's a lot of division happening politically, spiritually, economically, racially, and people need people. And we are, I think, really quick to cancel people as a way probably to not, because we're avoiding doing our own internal work, perhaps. Always wanted to do good intent. But I've learned from working with my brothers and sisters in the WNBA that we all need each other. And basketball is what we do, not who we are. Being a lawyer, a physician, those are all ways that you have been created, in my opinion, to live out in this world and use your gifts and talents to do those things. But nobody is better than the other, and they don't get to go. I get texts like, I don't know what I would do without chapels. Not just me. We have chaplains in every city, which is awesome. I have a whole chapel family, and I don't travel. I do home chapels with both teams. And so they need us to be part of it. We can't, believe it or not, have any of these games without referees. Not going to bring that up, but I just did. Right? So what one lesson is, we want to make sure our inside aligns with our outside, and the outside isn't all there is to us.
Beautiful. And we're talking about a lot of metaphors today, the kitchen, the rooms in our heads.
Right.
Michelle, our pod is about making waves. And WAVES is an acronym that I use that represents women amplifying voices and elevating success. It's a commitment to enriching leadership through diverse perspectives, authentic storytelling, and collective achievement. So I think that last answer you gave is just this great segue into it, because the pod, Making Waves, is about lifting each other to new heights by redefining success as something we build together, not alone. So based on everything we've discussed today, the inside game, trust, values, the power of words, what elevating message do you want to leave with the listeners of the pod today?
I love that. And you touched on something that made me think, especially as women, and I'm not sure why this is all the case. doing some research into it, but I encourage all of us females that are in the audience and men too to collaborate, not compete. One of the beautiful things about the chapel program is these players all love each other. They will go up and trash talk and fight like it's crazy. But that's what that sport demands. But in chapel, they're teammates in college and they come together. So it's just a great reminder that to the listeners out there, gender doesn't matter. We need to collaborate and not compete. As a young girl in the 80s growing up a little bit after Title IX, there are a lot of people that collaborated, men and women, to allow women's sports to even be where they are today. So collaborate, not compete, and keep making waves. Just keep making waves and being yourself. We need you. You matter in this world to show up as you were created to be. And just don't forget that the loudest, most life-changing wave is your inside game.
Oh, so beautifully said. And this dialogue was so rich with all these wise tidbits. I'm going to have to listen to it a couple times because there's so much richness in here. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us on the pod, sharing your time, your experiences, and your stories.
I appreciate the opportunity to do it and love the work you're doing. Keep making waves as well.
I'm going to do my best. And before we close officially, I want to leave our listeners with a couple of questions to reflect upon as they continue their leadership journeys. So the first question is, what is the dominant voice in your internal dialogue right now? Is it empowering you to lead with confidence, or is it holding you back? And what's one shift you could make that would change your leadership trajectory this week? And the second question is, if you looked at your calendar and decisions for the past month, what values are actually guiding your life versus the values you say are important to you? Where is there alignment? And where is there a gap that needs some attention? Leadership transformation happens when reflection meets action. So now, go make some waves. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the pod. I invite you to join our pod every month as we empower one another, fostering a world where women in healthcare leadership thrive.